Intermission report, a 0-0 game after one period in Chicago. Now, earlier this evening, the Blackhawks held a town hall meeting to discuss the future of the organization and the search for a new permanent GM. The panel consisted of Chairman Rocky Wirtz, CEO Danny Wirtz, and President of Business Ops Jamie Faulkner. Eddie Olczyk moderated. Fans were present, so were members of the media, and as you might expect, questions about how exactly the team is moving forward following the Kyle Beach lawsuit were asked.
I think much of what happened to Kyle Beach stemmed from a power imbalance between a coach and a player and the powerlessness of a player in that situation. So what are the Blackhawks doing? What have the Blackhawks done? What will the Blackhawks do to empower a player in a similar situation to make sure that doesn't happen again?
I'm going to answer the question at the end. I think the report speaks for itself. The people that were involved are no longer here. We're not looking back at 2010. We're looking forward. And we're not going to talk about 2010. I know, and I'm not either. And we're not going to talk about what happened. We're moving forward. That is my answer. Now, what's your next question?
I can pick up to what we are doing today. And I think
no, I don't know. That's none of your business. That's none of your business. What we're going to do today is our business. I don't think it's any of your business.
How is it not my business?
Because I don't think it's any of your business. You don't work for the company. If someone in the company asks that question, we'll answer it. And I think you should get on to the next subject. We're not going to talk about Kyle Beach. We're not going to talk about anything that happened. Now, we're moving on. What more do I have to say? You want to keep asking the same question? You hear the same answer? Okay, ask the next question. Okay.
It was a question asked by Mark Lazarus of The Athletic. A similar question was posed later, and Rocky Wirtz essentially just doubled down. I mean, it's stunning, and it's beyond disappointing to sit there and say, in a matter this serious, that you're done with it, we're not talking about it anymore, that's it, we're moving on, and we don't have to share this information.
I would have liked to have heard what their plan is. And you saw Danny try to jump in there, and we were talking off camera about this. I wish Danny would have jumped in and protected his dad and said, hey, Dad, I got this. I'm now the new CEO. I'm the guy leading this operation going forward. I'd like to hear from him and hear exactly what him and Jamie Faulkner, their president of business operations, would have to say. He obviously came in, like we talked about, Gretz off camera too, and talked, that he had a bone to pick with that writer going in. So it didn't matter what he said. The writer could have came in and said, hey, guess what? Talk, you got a great jacket on.
Yeah.
He would still have that same reaction.
You make mistakes. What do? You talk about them, and then you do things about it. Like, you can't hide it. And I'm a coach. I used to be a coach. Like, I want to know maybe there's ways of, hey, what would I do different? Or as an assistant coach, if these things happen, that's what you want to hear. Is there protocols to do it? So, yeah, I don't know if Rocky, I think he was upset about something else, and he just kept going. I would love to see Danny have, this is what we're doing. I think that would have been the positive spin. Just a little disappointed how that went down.
And I would think, as a player, if you're impartial, you're not a Blackhawks player, but you're watching this, I mean, you want a team that's willing to share that information and talk about this.
Listen, from every point of view, this is just a horrible scenario, horrible situation, what happened to that young man. But I'm sitting here thinking, as a parent, you're sitting there going, my son's 18 years old. He's going to maybe be drafted by that team. I want to make sure. Yeah. And I'm sure they do have things in place that are going to protect those kids moving forward. But obviously, as you said, Ace, there was some illness between the two before that meeting even started.
But, I mean, the bottom line is, first off, I like to point out, it's a town hall setting. The idea is to share this information with fans and people in the organization, people outside the organization. If you have a plan in place like that, where you can empower players to make sure this doesn't happen, it just boggles my mind. Why would you not want to